Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you guys being here. Today we're gonna do the cleanup of this little Imperial Rhode Island Stockman. I'm gonna show you guys how I do it. Hopefully it's not a long video. It typically takes me a little bit to get everything cleaned up on a knife that's really dirty and beat like this one is. As you see, it's pretty dirty. The scales are all messed up. Back springs aren't horrible, they just got patina on them and some rust spots. Actually, some pretty good rust spots. And then the blades need a lot done to them. But hopefully it won't be a long video. I'm going to show you my process, and hopefully it'll help you guys out in being able to do your guys's cleanups and resurrections, because I like to resurrect my knives. Alright, let's go over what I use. I'm sure everybody uses microfiber towel. Okay, obviously you need your knife. I go through 500 grit, 1000 grit, 1200 grit. I use rubber mechanic gloves because all the cracks in my hands, the black and everything gets inside of my fingers and it is difficult to get out. I use my Dremel with the wire wheel. I buy my wire wheel kits at Harbor Freight because that's the cheapest one, and since I go through a lot of them, might as well. Same as my buffing wheels, I buy those at Harbor Freight as well. We're going to use Neverdol. We're going to use Rem Oil, which is found at Walmart in the sporting goods section. They have the aerosol one, or they have the liquid. I prefer the liquid because you can kind of adjust how much you're using, and the aerosol kind of disperses a lot of it, I feel like. So I feel like for the value of the money, this was $2.77 at Walmart, and the aerosol was near $5. Okay, and we're gonna use Dawn dish soap, a paintbrush, warm water, toothbrush. This is my preferred brand of paint, and for farm implements, it's for farm equipment and implements on the farm. It's a lot more better. I feel like it's a lot more weather resistant, rust resistant, and it's a lot more durable, especially for us pocket guys who, we carry our knives. We like to carry our knives. So to me, that paint is a lot better. But today, I'm going to use this one, which it's a good paint as well. You want to use an enamel and get the heaviest or most protective kind of paint that you can use. Since I did the Camp King in black, the only other color I had currently in the house is a red, so I want to do the scales in red on this one. And then we are going to use our Blue Magic metal polish. Not sponsored. If they want to sponsor me, that would be great, because I use the bejesus out of this stuff. Alright. Oh, and then I use a little flathead screwdriver to scrape inside the valley of there. And then typically I use popsicle sticks, but I ran out, so I just went in my backyard, grabbed a chunk of little splintered off wood from where I was testing one of the fixed blades on doing some batoning And that's a splinter off of one of the pieces of wood. Okay, got my Monster. Not sponsored as well. It's just something I love to drink every day. Alright, let's get into it. We're going to fire up the Dremel. It's going to get a little bit noisy. Sorry about that, guys. I start out in the valley as much as I can, because as we know, all knives are built differently. The opening of it is always different depending on the knife. If you have a single blade, it's going to be super hard to get these wire wells in there, but just try your best. Alright, here we go. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention too is these are crimped on bolsters. And then while you're cleaning your knife, you do want, when you go into your half stop position, and this one does not have half stop, but you put it in your halfway position. As you notice, it pushes the back spring out. Hit that with the wire wheel, because if there is rust or even pocket junk, that does get into our back springs, and we want to try to clean our back springs as well as possible, because that's what helps give us our snap. If there is gunk on your back springs, that prevents your snap. It slows it down, and then it also starts to wear out your back spring because it puts a lot of tension on there. And also, while you're doing this, you do want to wear safety protection. All right, because the little wires on the wire wheels do fling off. I have to wear eyeglasses, as you can see. So it'll shoot my eyeglasses, but I need these to see, so I don't want to take these off and go get my clear safety glasses, because I've kind of killed my eyes from welding, and I've gotten metal debris into my eyes and had to have had it surgically removed. There was one point where I had a piece of metal in there, and I left it in there a little too long, and they told me I could have lost one of my eyes when they had to dig it out. But, that's neither here nor there. I'm just glad God protected me and let me keep my eyeball and keep my sight. Anyways, back to what we're doing. Try to get your back springs as clean as possible, especially since we're keeping the knife in its original shape. We're not taking it fully apart. So we want to clean it as best as possible so we can have the best outcome. Alright, so let's get back to it. Okay, we're done with the wire wheel. Show you what it looks like now. There's a back spring. I mean, a lot of guys will be happy with just that. There's that blade. There's your main blade. And it does have snap. This one was a soft snap. So let's see if we got anything back. No. Still nothing yet. And inside the channel, look at that, it's a lot better, but we're going to make it even better. Okay, we're going to take our 500 grit, start with our 500 grit. We'll go in here with this tiny screwdriver and see if we can get under the blades as well as we could. See if anything comes out of there. That wire wheel got a lot of it pretty good. Might have to hit that with the wire wheel. I should have thought about that when I had the wire wheel on. These little covers that they put on here back in the day, it's like a little plastic tape type of scale that they put on top of the little aluminum steel scales that are crimped on. And typically I just paint these, the ones that have the nice detail in there. As you can see, it has nice scale detail. I paint these. There is one I'll have to show you guys on another video. There is another knife. It comes with this same style of like vinyl scale on it, and the bolsters are smooth. I mean, the scales are nice and smooth. Sorry about my dogs, guys. The scales are nice and smooth, and those ones I do not typically paint. I usually just clean them up and leave them as is and carry them, you know, tote them that way when I want a little dude in my pocket. But I want to try this one technique. I don't know if you guys know him. He's got a good channel. He's got a pretty good following as well, so I'm sure all of my subscribers know who he is. It's Second Chance George, and he picked up vinyl for, oh, what is it used for? I forget what it's used for, but he picked it up at the dollar store, and it's a vinyl paper, sheet of paper, you know, and picked it up for $1. And he did several knives with that, and so I'm gonna give that a shot instead of just leaving those blank. So we'll do that in a different video, you know, and see how that turns out. I liked how his turned out in his videos. They came out really great. I liked them, and he's got a good channel. You guys should go check him out if you guys don't already. Go subscribe to Second Chance George. He's always doing knife cleanups and restorations. That was actually how I found him, because it's one of the things I enjoy doing. Alright, we got all that scale material off now, except for a chunk right there. Okay, now it's just a blank canvas. We're going to start out with the 500. Get that down in there. I use a piece of wood because it applies pressure, so that way you make sure you get everything out of there that you want out of there, you know. And like I said, I typically use popsicle sticks, because you're able to apply pressure to the sidewalls and get those sidewalls nice and clean and even all the way across from top to bottom with applying the pressure with a piece of wood. And then also it gives you more pressure towards the bottom, so you get the bottom nice and clean. See, look at that. That looks good. Okay, done with that piece of wood. Actually, we'll come back to the wood later, possibly, because sometimes I'll still use the wood to apply pressure to my blades. And when cleaning my blades, well, even the bolsters, what I do is I sand in one direction, you know, because you don't want sand marks going in two different directions and then your blade looks all goofy. So I typically sand in one direction and I stay in that direction, you know, so that way you could get out whatever marks, but your sanding marks are in unison, you know. So I don't do up and down and then side to side. I don't do all that mess. I just keep it in one direction, which I go the length of the blade. It's got some scarring on it. Let's see. When I put wood inside the sandpaper, it's just to get a little bit more pressure on there. And because the wood is straight as well, you get the full length of the blade. And you can take out some of your scarring on there. Like this one's got scarring on this small little pen blade that I do not think is going to come out. I mean, I could get it out if I go and go and go, but oh man, we're at 25 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Let me try to get this going. And what I do is when I'm sanding, I start on one end of the knife and hit everything on that end, you know, working my way to the other end. So that way I know for my own personal state of mind, instead of jumping, you know, oh, I'm working on the blade right now, let me hit the other blades. I just work from one end to the other, so that way I know that I hit the entire knife. And anywhere that I could get the sandpaper in, I try to get it in there, you know. I try to get these things as clean as possible. And like I said before, with hitting the back spring with the wire wheel, I do the same thing when I'm sanding. I go over it with the sandpaper. And I try to completely hit it. Now, right now on this knife, I could be undelicate, I guess is the word. I don't have to be delicate with it right now because we're gonna restore the scales, you know. But say we had nice bone handles on here, or even if it had Delrin, it doesn't have to be bone. It could be Delrin. It could be, you know, your any other synthetic handle scales that you don't plan on replacing. It doesn't need repairs. Then yeah, when you're working your back spring, you want to be delicate not to damage your scales. But when it's on a knife like this one, where there's no worry about damaging the scales, you can go as heavy and hard as you want without a worry, you know, which sometimes kind of makes it nice. And then sometimes, you know, for me, I like the practice of being delicate and making sure that I'm sanding precisely, you know. Oh, that spot is being stubborn right there. This is going to be a nice looking Stockman. It really is. It's going to be a fun little guy to carry. And I think that red is going to pop really nicely on this guy. I didn't have any brown, or else I would have went with the brown to make it kind of look original, you know, because the original material was a brown scale design. But I think this red will look nice on it. I think it'll pop. I think I'm going to have to get myself a little variety of colors in my enamel paints. Because I think I'm going to start putting pops of color on some of the knives that I restore, you know. And then that way they're custom to me. I know I definitely got to get me a blue, because blue's my favorite color. And I'll have to find one at an antique store that catches my eye, that I'll have to turn blue and customize it, you know. And yes, I know it'll probably look a little bit silly with blue, because they didn't use any blue back in the day, you know. They were typically a, you know, brown bone, black bone, red bone. Oh man, I would love to get a vintage red bone, you know, from the 70s or even earlier. I mean, I need to save up, because I'm on a journey of trying to get my birth year, which is 1980, my wife's birth year, which is 71. My grandson's birth year was super easy. It was a 24. So I already got that one covered. That one was super easy. I just had to buy, last year, I just had to buy that year model of what I wanted. And I got a trapper in his birth year, because the trapper is one of my favorite patterns. It's one of my favorite patterns out of all the knife patterns. And I believe that comes from my grandfather, because he carried a trapper pattern. At least that was the last knife I remember him carrying before his passing in 2010. Well, actually, it was prior to that, because his Alzheimer's, he wasn't allowed around any sharp objects. So it was prior to 2010 when he last carried. But when he last carried a pocket knife, it was a trapper pattern. And as a kid, that's the knife I remember him carrying. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I love that pattern. You know, I have love for every pattern out there, but I think my affinity for the trapper pattern is because of my grandfather. And he was such a wonderful man, you know. I miss him. I miss him a lot, you know, and he taught me a lot. He was my male role model in my life, that, you know, that was a steady role model. And he didn't talk much about his days in the military, you know, but he talked about his fun parts, you know, his time in Germany. He loved Germany, and he loved his German beer. So when my aunt was in the service, she was also in the army. She was in communications, and she got deployed over to Germany, and she got stationed there for a while. So when she was there, he hit her up asking her, well, begging her pretty much, which was funny, to send him some German beer because he hadn't had any since his visit, which, was probably 20 years prior to my aunt being in Germany. So he had her search down this certain lager, I believe it's called, which is pretty funny. But yeah, he served his country in two different ways. He served in the army, and he served here in the Union with Cesar Chavez to get humane working conditions for the farm workers. And so I look up to him because he fought in two different fronts, the farm working side of it, our agriculture business feeds everyone. It puts food on the table for everyone, and so it's something that's needed. We need the workers out there in the fields, and we need the farm owners and landowners and field bosses, we need them all. We do. We need them all because that's how they provide for their family. And not just providing for their family, they're providing for everywhere that their crop goes to, So they are needed. But at the same time, as much as they're needed, the workers in those fields deserve proper work conditions, And so that's what my grandfather fought for. He fought for their rights, and he went through a lot of abuse in that time, and he taught me a lot about that, and he taught me about standing up for your rights without using violence, and that was another thing that I liked, even though as a young man I liked using my fist. As a young man, my fists were the answer to everything I thought, until he started teaching me that you don't need your fist. Your fist will only hurt them in that moment, and you're also going to pay a price for using your fist, which is true. You use your fist, not only do you hurt that person just for that moment and give you that pleasure for just that moment, but those wounds that you created heal, and they still get to go on about their business while you created trouble for yourself, which is very wise. It is. It's very wise. And of course, as a young man, you don't think like that. You just think, oh, they wronged me, whatever the case was, and then I got to solve the problem with my fist. And so he taught me differently. He taught me that you do not need violence to hurt someone. Your words, your actions, your inactions, especially if that person is trying to provoke you into getting physical, those are your inactions, along with a smile, hurts them. Because if they're trying to provoke you and you're just sitting there smiling, they're getting worked up, getting themselves worked into a lather for nothing, For you, it's nothing. For them, they're agitated, they're upset because you're not throwing that punch that they are wanting you to, that they're looking for. And as I said, he didn't talk about his career much other than the good times in the military. But I know whatever he went through, it made him a better man. And what he taught me made me love my country that much more. I bleed for USA. I do. I wanted to go into the service. I wasn't allowed to because of my flat feet. Which I guess was a good thing, because my flat feet turned into an issue, becoming my plantar's fasciitis. So I guess when they do your physical, these guys, they're thorough. I passed everything else, which was sad. I passed my ASVABs. I passed my physical agilities back then, weight test, body weight, or body, what is it? Your body mass index. Passed all of that stuff until they started getting into in-depth looking into everything, where they go through all the other stuff, and then they started checking me over and found that I had flat feet, and so I was ineligible to serve our great country, which made me feel very disappointed, because I wanted to serve our great country. I wanted to fulfill that dream of mine, and make my grandfather proud, which at that age I didn't realize he was already proud of me, He was already proud of the young man that I had become. But I wanted to make him proud by joining and serving my country the same way he did. But that didn't occur. I wasn't able to serve. So from there, I went into construction, became a welder, became one of the best in the company that I worked for. And I learned a lot of lessons in construction as well, on how to be a man, or whatever you want to call it. Because started out as a gopher, and a gopher, you're just a go-getter. You go get what the real guys need. The real construction workers need. That's all you do. All day long, you just run from one end of the site to the other end, grabbing parts, grabbing tools, grabbing vehicles. Whatever they needed, you did it. But I learned a lot, moving up from the bottom all the way up to a welder. And then I got injured there, and I could not lift heavy weight anymore for a while. So I lost my position as a welder, and they try to keep my position or keep me employed by making me a gopher again, which was nice of the company, you know. But at the same time, there was a lot of heavy lifting as a gopher, even though there was wonderful equipment, you know, forklifts and booms and everything that could help you tow the weight. You still got to get it loaded. And so that career ended. And then I moved to Arizona and got married for my first time in my life at the age of 21. That was kind of a bad decision, but it taught me a lot too on relationships. I know I'm all over the place, guys. But no, that first marriage of mine taught me a lot about relationships, how I wanted to be treated in a relationship, along with finding out the type of woman that I actually wanted to be with. So that taught me a lot in that aspect. And then in Arizona, I went to the police academy for the sheriff's department under Sheriff Joe R. Pyle, which I don't know if any of you guys know, but that guy, he is a tough old goat. That bad boy, he makes prisoners feel shamed so they don't want to come back to prison. They don't want to do wrong, which is awesome. He puts them in pink jumpsuits, makes them wear pink jumpsuits as their clothing. That's their attire, and they live in what he calls tent city. It's literally out in the desert. You get to feel the heat, and they live in little tents instead of a comfy, air conditioned, heated prison. You know, you're a convict, you're gonna do time like a convict. And I thought that was pretty cool. I like that idea and process of thinking of, you know, you're a criminal, you messed up, you injured someone or stole from someone, you know, you need to pay the price and actually feel the consequences of your actions. So I wanted to join his team. So I went to the police academy to become a sheriff's deputy. And we were 2 weeks out from graduation when the 2008 economy bust happened. When the housing market crashed, they started operating on skeleton crews everywhere. So the police academy got halted, and they put us on a kind of like a wait list, you know, to be called back, being that we already had our scores, we already did our testing, and heck, we were 2 weeks out from graduation, you know. So they put us on a wait list to be called back when the hiring process began again, when they were able to have all their funding back and what have you. And so we got put on that list. And in the meantime, you know, I needed an income, so I was in search of a job. I took menial little security jobs that paid minimum wage just to try to make ends meet. I lost my house in that crash because of not being able to pay the bills and everything, and afford the mortgage, which hurt me and changed me mentally at that time because, I was still fairly young and losing my house. And the wife made some choices at that time, or that the ex-wife, I should say, made some choices along with other things that fell into play throughout the relationship, and we wound up getting divorced after the loss of the house. So I moved back to home base, which is California, which is where I am currently, and will stay here probably till the day I pass. And my childhood sweetheart, which has been a family friend forever, came to my grandfather's birthday party. Actually, that was the last birthday party we were able to have for him before he passed. She attended the birthday party, and it's funny because I had a crush on her since I was a child. Since I was a child, I had a crush on her, my current wife. And I seen her coming in, and it was funny because I instantly had the butterflies in my stomach, and ooh, oh my goodness, all of those feelings came back. It was funny. All the feelings came back, and talking to her and everything, and finally as an adult, because as a teenager and all that kid stuff, I did not have the guts to ask her out back then. Had I done that, my life may be different. Would have never had a first marriage and divorce, Who knows? God does things for a reason. Maybe there were the lessons that I learned that needed to be learned before being in a real marriage. Maybe those things needed to be taught to me to know certain things, and for me to bring certain things to the table. And so, being with my current wife, who is my rock, the job that I had got after moving back here to California, worked there, and then I got injured. A 20-ton press. I was pressing some bearings to put into a machine because I was repairing one of the molding machines. I worked at a custom cabinet shop with disabled adults, and I had multiple job titles. I was a transport driver to pick up the handicapped adults and transport them from job site to job site, because we had job coaches, which that was another title of mine, because I did take care of the handicapped adults and teach them things as well. what we would do is we would teach the handicapped adults different job skills and how to be able to have a job out in the real world, you know, and how to function. Okay, now we're gonna clean the knife with Never Dull just to get as much of the gunk off of it that we can with the Never Dull. That's what I use my Never Dull for. I use it as a pre-clean, pretty much. To get into as many gaps as I can. Get down in that channel. See all the black and yuck that would get off of it. This is just a little bit of a pre-clean before I actually bathe it. I just try to get off anything that I won't be able to reach when I'm bathing it. Okay, now gloves come off now at this point because they're filthy and I don't want to contaminate the knife after bathing it. And as you see, I ripped a hole in one of the gloves and got the black on me anyways. Okay. Now comes the watered bath. I get it into the water, scrub it with the toothbrush. Try to get into everywhere that I can. Okay, and just rinse off everything that I possibly can. Then we get the Dawn dish soap, put some in the channel on the pivots and a little bit on the body. A little bit goes a long way. Dunk the toothbrush in the water so we can get it all sudsy. And we just scrub a dub everywhere, all over the knife. Scrub it down, give it a nice thorough bath. This way the Dawn also degreases it, gets all the gunk and grime off of it, out of it. By doing this, all the cleaning that we did, we're getting all of that grime that we broke free, all the small particulates that came off of our sandpaper, because you know your sandpaper, no, I'm not even in view, dang, I'm sorry guys, but all I'm doing is scrubbing it with the Dawn dish soap, you know, got a good lather going. And then after you scrub a dub, gonna rinse it, scrub it in the water to get all the grime off, all the Dawn dish soap off, you know, get it as thoroughly clean as possible. Alright. You're gonna get it as clean as you possibly can. Everything out of there. Alright. Look at that water. It was nice clear water. It was nice clear water when we started. And that's how much dirt came off of it. Alright, now this step. Oh, I forgot to show you that tool that we use in this process. I already pre-filled my air compressor so you guys don't have to hear that. And I blow it out with my little nozzle and the compressed air. Not only will that completely dry the knife out, but it also gets any grime that's inside your pivots, you're down in your back springs, it gets that all out of there, okay? Now, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, I dropped it on the floor. I'm sorry about the time, guys. Now we're going to do a quick polish. Get this back spring real quick, guys, and then wipe it all down, and then I'll show you how I paint. I'm so sorry, guys. So sorry it's taking so long. And the bad thing is, this is all real time, and I do not know how to edit to make it shorter. I am so crap. I am so sorry, guys, about this time. I hope I'm showing you guys something good, though, and I'm hoping I am showing you something that you guys could use product wise, you know. I mean, as you guys see, I'm not using any fancy machinery or anything. The only thing I have is my Dremel. I have purchased a bench grinder and the what's it called, the microfiber wheels or whatever it's called. Anyways, check this guy out. Look at that shine, baby. Look at that shine. Woo! Look at those back springs. Oh, baby, brand new, brand new. All right, I am gonna show you how I paint now. Ooh, damn it. Sorry about that. I just pinched my finger with that blade. Good thing they're still a little bit dull. I need to put a nice edge on there, but that will be done not on this video because I've held you guys up long enough. Okay, what I use are these little containers that I get when I order a salad at a restaurant to take home, or we get them with our hot wings. It's the ranch dressing container. That's what I use. Alright. Woo! Alright, got a little splashy splash there. A little splashy splash there. Set that down. Get our paintbrush. Okay, this will take one more coat, but here you go. It'll take one more coat on this side to get everything covered, and then it's got to dry before I can flip it over and do the opposite side. So that is my cleanup, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. This is Wicked Blades. Peace.